What is Great Enlightening Being's unattached, unbound, liberated dedication? Here they honor and respect all roots of goodness. That is to say, they honor and respect emancipation from birth and death, embodiment of all roots of goodness, seeking all roots of goodness, repentance of past acts, moral support of roots of goodness, expression of respect for Buddhas, making prostrations before tombs and shrines, and exhorting Buddhas to expound the teaching. They honor and respect such various roots of goodness, recognizing and approving them all. When Great Enlightening Beings honor, respect, recognize, and approve these roots of goodness, they are extremely delighted, and affirm their faith, attaining peace and stability themselves and also enabling others to attain peace and stability. They diligently cultivate roots of goodness without attachment, freely building them up, developing supreme determination, abiding in the realm of the enlightened, their power growing, able to see and know all. They dedicate the roots of goodness in this way, with unattached, unbound, liberated minds to accomplish the deeds of universal good. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to purify the speech of universal good. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to perfect the mental action of universal good. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to arouse the vast energy of universal good. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to fulfill the methods of concentration formulae of unobstructed expression of universal good, their voices pervading the 10 directions. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to fulfill the method of concentration formulae for perception of all Buddhas of universal good, always seeing all Buddhas of the 10 directions. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to achieve and understand the method of concentration formulae of all sounds, the same as all sounds, expounding infinite principles. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to accomplish universal good's method of concentration formulae abiding through all ages, cultivating enlightening practice everywhere in the 10 directions. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to accomplish the power of freedom of universal good, in the body of one being showing the cultivation of the practices of all enlightening beings, eternally throughout the future, ever unceasing, and as in the body of one being, so also in the bodies of all beings. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to achieve the power of freedom of universal good to enter into the enlightenment sites of all congregations, appearing before all Buddhas, and cultivating the practices of enlightening beings. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to accomplish the power of freedom of Buddhahood of universal good, and appear to spend endless eons on various methods, causing all sentient beings to attain entry into enlightenment, appearing bodily before all Buddhas. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to attain the power of freedom of universal good, and moment to moment enable untold beings to abide in the knowledge of the 10 powers without weariness of mind. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to accomplish the power of freedom of universal good, in the bodies of all sentient beings manifesting all Buddha's autonomous spiritual powers, causing all sentient beings to live by the practice of universal good. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to develop the power of freedom of universal good, in the speech of one being producing the speech of all beings, causing each and every being to dwell in the stage of universal knowledge. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to attain the power of freedom of universal good, and contain the bodies of all beings in the body of each individual being, causing all to think they have attained the Buddha body. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to achieve the power of freedom of universal good and be able to adorn all worlds of the 10 directions with a single flower. with unattached, unbound, liberated minds to accomplish the power of freedom of universal good and produce a great voice pervading the cosmos, heard in all Buddha lands, pacifying all beings. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to attain the power of freedom of universal good, able to enter in each passing instant of the endless future, all worlds everywhere, adorning them as they wish by the spiritual power of Buddha. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to achieve the power of freedom of universal good and through the ages of the future always be able to enter into all worlds and manifest attainment of Buddhahood in the world. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to accomplish the practice of universal good, with one light illumining all worlds in the realm of space. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to achieve the practice of universal good, attain immeasurable knowledge, be endowed with all spiritual powers, and explain all kinds of truths. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to accomplish the practice of universal good, and enter the eternal, immeasurable spiritual knowledge of the enlightened. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to accomplish the practice of universal good, abide in the realm of the enlightened ones throughout the cosmos, and by the spiritual power of the enlightened, cultivate the physical, verbal, and mental actions of the practices of enlightening beings, never flagging. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to accomplish the practice of universal good, and be pure in speech, not deviating from the truth or corrupting the teaching, with inexhaustible eloquence teaching and pacifying all sentient beings so that they may attain the unexcelled enlightenment of all Buddhas. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to cultivate the practice of universal good, and when entering into a single aspect of the teaching amid immeasurable light illuminating inconceivably many aspects of the teaching, abide in the practices of enlightening beings, master of the teaching, arrive at the other shore adorned by universal good, and examine and gain understanding of every single object by means of universal knowledge, without universal knowledge being exhausted. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to live by the practice of universal good from this life onward, never ceasing, attaining omniscience and realizing innumerable truths, to be ultimately free from confusion and delusion in regard to truth. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to cultivate the work of universal good, with mastery of technique attaining the light of truth and illumining the practices of enlightening beings without obstruction. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to cultivate the practice of universal good and attain knowledge of all means of liberation, that is, innumerable means, inconceivable means, the means of enlightening beings, means of universal knowledge, all enlightening beings' means of training, means of activating innumerable cycles of teachings, means appropriate to unspeakably many times, means of explaining all kinds of methods, means of the boundless treasury of fearlessness, means of explaining all truths. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to live by the practice of universal good, accomplish actions that cause all witnesses to rejoice and not give rise to slander or repudiation, and to set their minds on enlightenment with ultimate purity, never regressing. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to cultivate the practice of universal good and attain pure knowledge of the languages of all sentient beings, fully adorned by all verbal expression to respond to all sentient beings and gladden them. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to abide by the practice of universal good and establish an extraordinary will, have a pure mind, attain great spiritual powers and vast knowledge and wisdom, and go to all vast worlds and vast lands, and to immense congregations of sentient beings expound unspeakably many far-reaching teachings of the Buddhas, their treasuries full of vast adornments. with unattached, unbound, liberated minds to fulfill the practice and vows of dedication of universal good, and attain the pure body, pure mind, and pure understanding of all Buddhas. Embody the virtues of Buddhahood, abide in the realm of Buddhahood, universally illumining with the seal of knowledge, revealing the pure deeds of enlightening beings, entering into the meanings of all different expressions, demonstrating the tremendous freedom of the Buddhas and enlightening beings, and for the sake of all sentient beings manifest the attainment of true enlightenment. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to diligently cultivate the practical commitments of the faculties of universal good, and attain clear, sharp faculties, well-tuned faculties, faculties free in all ways, inexhaustible faculties, faculties diligently cultivating all roots of goodness, equanimous faculties of the range of all Buddhas, faculties of great vigor giving all enlightening beings the prediction of non-regression, faculties knowing the realm of indestructibility of all Buddhas, faculties of adamantine flames of the illuminating light of knowledge of all Buddhas, faculties freely distinguishing all capacities, faculties for establishing all sentient beings in universal knowledge, boundlessly vast faculties, totally complete faculties, pure unhindered faculties. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to cultivate the practice of universal good and attain all enlightening beings' spiritual powers of boundlessly great strength, spiritual powers of immeasurable independent knowledge, spiritual power to appear in all Buddha fields without physically moving, spiritual power of unhindered, uninterrupted freedom, spiritual power to concentrate all Buddha fields in one place, spiritual power to pervade all Buddha fields with one body, spiritual power of unhindered, liberated roaming, spiritual power of instantaneous freedom without doing anything, spiritual power abiding in essencelessness and non-reliance, and spiritual power to progressively set up untold worlds in a single pour, traveling to all Buddha's enlightenment sites throughout the cosmos to teach sentient beings and cause them all to enter the door of great knowledge. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to enter the door of universal good, produce the practices of enlightening beings, and with independent knowledge enter into innumerable Buddha lands in a single instant, contain immeasurable Buddha lands in one body, attain knowledge of how to purify Buddha lands, and always observe boundless Buddha lands with knowledge and wisdom, never developing the mentality of individual salvation. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to cultivate the practices of expedient means of universal good, enter the realm of wisdom, be born in the house of the enlightened, abide in the path of enlightening beings, fulfill infinite supreme aspirations, carrying out infinite vows without ever ceasing, and know all realms of reality of all times. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to accomplish the pure teaching of universal good, able to contain the innumerable worlds of the cosmos throughout all space in a spot as big as a hair tip, causing all to be clearly seen, with the same applying to every single point throughout the space of the cosmos. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to accomplish the profound mental techniques of universal good, able in a single mental moment to manifest the states of mind of one sentient being over untold eons, and in the same way manifest the states of mind of all sentient beings over untold eons. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to enter the stage of employment of techniques of dedication of universal good, able to contain in one body the unspeakably unspeakable numbers of bodies throughout the cosmos, without there being any increase or decrease in the realm of sentient beings, and as of one body, so also of all bodies throughout the cosmos, so all contain all in the same way. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to accomplish the means of the vows of universal good, abandon all delusions of thought, mind, and view, and enter the sphere of all Buddhas and always see the pure Buddha's reality body, equal to space, to be adorned with the marks and embellishments of Buddhahood, master spiritual powers, and always teach unimpededly and uninterruptedly with a sublime voice, causing all who hear to absorb and retain what they have been taught, and to realize the body of enlightenment has no acquisition. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to cultivate the practice of universal good and abide in the stages of enlightenment, in a single moment entering all worlds, upright worlds, inverted worlds, untold numbers of immense worlds in the 10 directions enmeshing all locations, and with the means of distinction of the cosmic net of Indra, distinguish all reality realms, having various worlds enter one world, having untold infinities of worlds enter one world, having the infinite world structured by all realms of phenomena and principles enter one world, having the infinite worlds established in all realms of space enter one world, yet without destroying the features of their structures, causing all to be clearly seen. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to cultivate universal goods, practical vows of enlightening, and be crowned by the Buddha, instantly entering the stage of skill and means, fully developing the treasure of knowledge, steadfastly living by enlightening practices, capable of comprehensive knowledge of all perceptions, perceptions of sentient beings, perceptions of phenomena, perceptions of fields, perceptions of locations, perceptions of Buddha, perceptions of worlds, perceptions of action, perceptions of practices, perceptions of realms, perceptions of understandings, perceptions of faculties, perceptions of time, perceptions of continuity, perceptions of afflictions, perceptions of purity, perceptions of maturation, perceptions of seeing Buddha, perceptions of turning the wheel of teaching, perceptions of hearing the teaching and understanding, perceptions of training, perceptions of infinity, perceptions of emancipation, perceptions of various stages, perceptions of innumerable stages, perceptions of knowledge of enlightening beings, perceptions of training of enlightening beings, perceptions of concentrations of enlightening beings, perceptions of enlightening beings emerging from concentration, perceptions of the becoming of enlightening beings, perceptions of disintegration of enlightening beings, perceptions of the demise of enlightening beings, perceptions of the birth of enlightening beings, perceptions of the liberation of enlightening beings, perceptions of the independence of enlightening beings, perceptions of the preservation of enlightening beings, perceptions of the spheres of enlightening beings, perceptions of the formation and decay of ages, perceptions of light, perceptions of darkness, perceptions of day, perceptions of night, perceptions of changes of the fortnight, month, season, and year, perceptions of going, perceptions of coming, perceptions of standing still, perceptions of sitting, perceptions of sleeping, perceptions of waking, able to know all these perceptions in an instant of thought, while at the same time detached from all perceptions, without arbitrary discrimination, cutting through all barriers, without any attachments, the knowledge of all Buddhas filling their minds, all Buddha teachings developing their roots of goodness, having the same one body as all Buddhas, in the keeping of all Buddhas, free from defilement, thoroughly pure, cultivating all Buddha teachings as appropriate, reaching the other shore. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to cultivate the practice of universal good for the sake of all sentient beings and produce the jewel of great knowledge, knowing infinite minds in each individual mind, seeing clearly their various fixations, notions, various natures, doings, functions, features, thoughts, and awareness. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to perfect the jewel of knowledge of the great vows of universal good, knowing infinite places in one place, and likewise in all places, with unattached, unbound, liberated minds to cultivate the stage of knowledge of practice of universal good, and in one action be able to know all actions, clearly seeing the various conditions making up those actions, and as of one action, so of all actions. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to cultivate and learn universal good's knowledge of all things, knowing infinite things in one thing, knowing one thing in all things, these things each different, without obstruction, without opposition or attachment. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to live by the practice of enlightening beings and acquire the unobstructed ear faculty of universal good, in the sound of one utterance knowing the boundless differentiations in countless utterances, without clinging, and as of one utterance, so of all utterances. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to cultivate the knowledge of universal good, initiate the practice of universal good, and abide in the state of universal good, in each individual principle expounding countless principles, those principles far-reaching, variously different, teaching, transforming, saving, in accord with inconceivable expedient means at all times, in accord with the inclinations, understandings, and faculties of sentient beings, in accord with the time expounding the teaching for them with the voice of Buddha, with one marvelous voice gladdening innumerable sentient beings in the congregations at unspeakably many sites of enlightenment. So the innumerable enlightening beings with all Buddhas fill the cosmos, making extraordinary determinations, producing great insights, ultimately knowing all practices abiding in the state of universal good, according to the principles explained, able to enter moment to moment into the space of a single instant and develop and increase a store of infinite great knowledge for ever and ever, to teach this way, to cultivate in all fields great practices equal to space, fully perfecting them. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to cultivate the methods of operation of the faculties of universal good, becoming masters of great action, in each and every faculty able to know innumerable faculties, innumerable mental inclinations, and the sublime practice born of the realm of inconceivability. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to live by the heart of great dedication practice by universal good, and attain the most subtle knowledge of form, the most subtle knowledge of bodies, the most subtle knowledge of lands, the most subtle knowledge of ages, the most subtle knowledge of worlds, the most subtle knowledge of places, the most subtle knowledge of times, the most subtle knowledge of numbers, the most subtle knowledge of consequences of actions, and the most subtle knowledge of purity, able to know all such subtleties instantly, without fear, confusion, distraction, cloudiness, or depression of mind, being single-minded, skilled in quiet concentration and discernment, the mind well stabilized. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to abide in the knowledge of enlightening beings and cultivate the practice of universal good tirelessly, able to know the details of the tendencies of sentient beings, the details of the deaths of sentient beings, the details of the births of sentient beings, the details of the subsistence of sentient beings, the details of the locations of sentient beings, the details of the types of sentient beings, the details of the realms of sentient beings, the details of the acts of sentient beings, the details of the grasping of sentient beings, the details of sentient beings clinging to objects, able to know all such details instantly. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to establish profound determination, cultivate the practice of universal good, and be able to know the details of efforts of all enlightening beings for the sake of living creatures from their first inspiration, the details of cultivation of enlightening beings' practices, the details of enlightening beings' abodes, the details of enlightening beings' spiritual powers, the details of enlightening beings' travels to innumerable Buddha lands, the details of enlightening beings' pure eyes, the details of enlightening beings' development of transcendent mentality, The details of enlightening beings' visits to congregations at enlightenment sites of all Buddhas. The details of enlightening beings' knowledge of methods of concentration spells. The details of enlightening beings' expositions of the treasury of all skills of analysis and elucidation of the stage of infinite fearlessness. The details of the characteristics of innumerable concentrations of enlightening beings. The details of enlightening beings' knowledge of concentration on vision of all Buddhas. The details of enlightening beings' knowledge of extremely deep concentration. The details of enlightening beings' knowledge of concentration on great adornments. The details of enlightening beings' knowledge of concentration in great autonomous spiritual powers. The details of enlightening beings' knowledge of concentration on preservation of great practices throughout the future. The details of enlightening beings' knowledge of production of innumerable different concentrations. The details of enlightening beings' knowledge of concentration on being born in the presence of all Buddhas and diligent practice of service of the Buddhas, never leaving them. The details of enlightening beings' knowledge of cultivation of all profound, vast, unobstructed states of concentration. The details of enlightening beings' unobscured knowledge of concentration of the stage of consummation of universal knowledge. The stage of knowledge and practice of preservation, the stage of great spiritual powers, and the stage of certitude of meaning, able to know all such details completely. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to cultivate the practice of universal good, and know the details of all enlightening beings' knowledge of structures, the details of enlightening beings' stages, the details of enlightening beings' innumerable activities, the details of enlightening beings' production of dedication, the details of enlightening beings' attainment of the treasuries of all Buddhas, the details of enlightening beings' analytic knowledge, the details of enlightening beings' spiritual capabilities and willpower, the subtleties of enlightening beings' explanations of concentration, the details of enlightening beings' versatile skill and means, the details of the gestures of enlightening beings, the details of enlightening beings' life on the threshold of Buddhahood, the details of enlightening beings' birth in Tushita heaven, the details of enlightening beings' sojourn in the celestial palace, the details of enlightening beings' purification of a Buddha land, the details of enlightening beings' observation of the human world, the details of enlightening beings radiating great light, the details of the excellence of families of enlightening beings, the details of the congregations at the enlightenment sites of enlightening beings, the details of enlightening beings' birth throughout all worlds, the details of enlightening beings' manifestation of the end of a life of all bodies in one body, the details of enlightening beings entering their mother's wombs, the details of enlightening beings' life in their mother's wombs, the details of enlightening beings' free manifestation of the congregations at the sites of enlightenment in all realms while yet in their mother's wombs, the details of enlightening beings' manifestation of the spiritual powers of all Buddhas while in their mother's wombs, the details of enlightening beings' manifestation of birth, the details of the knowledge of enlightening beings walking 7 steps like a lion, the details of enlightening beings' knowledge of skill and means, expediently appearing to abide in a royal palace, the details of enlightening beings leaving home and cultivating practices for self-mastery, the details of enlightening beings sitting under trees of enlightenment at sites of enlightenment, the details of enlightening beings conquering armies of demons and attaining unexcelled complete perfect enlightenment, the details of the realized ones sitting on the seat of enlightenment, and emanating great light illumining the worlds of the 10 directions, the details of the enlightened ones showing innumerable mystic transfigurations, the details of the enlightened one's lion roar and great extinction, the details of the enlightened one's taming all sentient beings without hindrance, the details of the enlightened one's inconceivable autonomous powers like the adamantine mind of enlightenment, the details of the enlightened ones minding all worlds, the details of the enlightened ones doing Buddha work in all worlds forever and ever without ceasing, the details of the Enlightened One's unobstructed spiritual powers pervading the cosmos, the details of the Enlightened Ones appearing in all worlds throughout space to fulfill Buddhahood and tame sentient beings, the details of the Enlightened Ones manifesting innumerable Buddha bodies in one Buddha body, the details of the Enlightened One's knowledge of the freedom to be at the site of enlightenment in the past, future, and present, completely knowing all such minute details with consummate clarity, able to manifest appearance in all worlds, moment to moment increasing in knowledge, perfecting non-regressive skill and liberative means, cultivating enlightening practice without ceasing, fulfilling the stage of dedication of universal good, attaining the virtues of all Buddhas, never tiring of or giving up what enlightening beings practice, producing the enlightening being's state of presence, with innumerable means of enlightenment, all pure, wishing to pacify all sentient beings, cultivating the deeds of enlightening beings and accomplishing the enlightening being's stage of great power, attaining the aspiration of the enlightening mind, reaching the gate of dedication of diamond banner, producing the treasury of qualities of the realm of truth, always in the care of the Buddhas, entering the doors of the profound principles of enlightening beings, expounding all true meanings, flawlessly skilled in teaching, carrying out great vows, never abandoning sentient beings, thoroughly knowing the mind of conceivable and inconceivable realms, demonstrating the production of thought in the realm of inconceivability, detaching from verbal expression, abiding in knowledge, doing as all enlightening beings do, with the power of spiritual freedom demonstrating the path of attainment of Buddhahood forever and ever without cease, by spiritual power and the power of vows able to show all worlds, sentient beings, and ages, defined by illusory ideas and speech. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to cultivate the practice of universal good and attain knowledge of the minute details of the realms of all sentient beings, knowledge of the details of distinctions of realms of sentient beings, knowledge of the details of the verbal expression of realms of sentient beings, knowledge of the details of the attachments in realms of sentient beings, knowledge of the details of the different species in the realms of sentient beings, knowledge of the details of similar species in the realms of sentient beings, knowledge of the details of the innumerable tendencies in the realms of sentient beings, knowledge of the details of the inconceivably many artifices of various conceptions in the realms of sentient beings, knowledge of the details of the immeasurable pollution in the realms of sentient beings, knowledge of the details of the immeasurable purity in the realms of sentient beings, able to instantly know such minute details as these of all realms of sentient beings, knowing them as they truly are, widely expounding the truth for sentient beings, showing them various kinds of pure teachings and practices to enable them to cultivate the vast knowledge and wisdom of enlightening beings, emanating countless bodies, gladdening to all who see, illumining enlightening beings' minds with the sun of knowledge, causing their understanding to open up and their wisdom to be freed. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to cultivate the practices of universal good in all worlds for the sake of all beings, attaining detailed knowledge of all worlds in the cosmos of space, detailed knowledge of small worlds, detailed knowledge of large worlds, detailed knowledge of polluted worlds, detailed knowledge of pure worlds, detailed knowledge of incomparable worlds, detailed knowledge of various worlds, detailed knowledge of broad worlds, detailed knowledge of narrow worlds, detailed knowledge of worlds with unobstructed adornments, detailed knowledge of Buddha's appearance throughout all worlds, detailed knowledge of explanation of truth throughout all worlds, detailed knowledge of bodily manifestation throughout all worlds, detailed knowledge of emanation of great light throughout all worlds, detailed knowledge of manifestation of the Buddha's autonomous spiritual powers throughout all worlds, detailed knowledge of entry into the congregations at enlightenment sites of Buddha fields in all worlds, detailed knowledge of demonstration of all tones with one voice throughout all worlds, detailed knowledge of making all Buddha fields in the cosmos into one Buddha field, detailed knowledge of making one Buddha field into all Buddha fields in the cosmos, detailed knowledge of awareness that all worlds are like dreams, detailed knowledge of awareness that all worlds are like reflections, detailed knowledge of awareness that all worlds are like illusions. Knowing all this thoroughly, producing the path of all enlightening beings, entering the knowledge and spiritual powers practiced by universal good, fulfill the meditation of universal good, cultivate enlightening practices unceasingly, attain the free mystic metamorphoses of all Buddhas, acquire unobstructed bodies, abide in non-reliant knowledge, be without grasping or attachment to anything, being non-acquisitive in all mental actions, developing detachment in all situations, thinking of enlightening practice as purification, having no thought of grasping or clinging to universal knowledge, adorning themselves with concentrations, their knowledge in accord with all realms of reality. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to enter the door of practices of universal good and attain detailed knowledge of innumerable realms of reality, detailed knowledge of explanations of all realms of reality, detailed knowledge of entry into vast realms of reality, detailed knowledge of distinction of inconceivably many realms of reality, detailed knowledge of distinction of all realms of reality, detailed knowledge of one thought pervading all realms of reality, detailed knowledge of entry into all realms of reality, detailed knowledge of awareness that all realms of reality are ungraspable, detailed knowledge of observation of all realms of reality without obstruction, detailed knowledge of awareness that all realms of reality have no birth, detailed knowledge of manifestation of miracles in all realms of reality, with vast knowledge knowing such minute details of all realms of reality as they truly are, mastering the truth, demonstrating the practice of universal good, causing all sentient beings to be fully satisfied, not abandoning principle yet not clinging to doctrine, producing impartial, unobstructed knowledge, aware of the basis of non-obstruction, not dwelling on anything at all, not destroying the nature of things as it really is, pure and space-like, while producing verbal explanation adapted to the world, opening up the true meaning, pointing out the silent, null essence, not relying or dwelling on any object, without vain discrimination, clearly seeing the universal structure of the realm of reality, comprehending that all worlds and all things are equal and non-dual, divorcing all attachments. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to cultivate the practices of universal good and develop detailed knowledge of all eons, detailed knowledge of making unspeakably many eons one moment, detailed knowledge of making one moment unspeakably many eons, detailed knowledge of fitting incalculable eons into one eon, detailed knowledge of one eon entering incalculable eons, detailed knowledge of long eons entering short eons, detailed knowledge of short eons entering long eons, detailed knowledge of entry into eons with Buddhas and eons without Buddhas, detailed knowledge of the number of all eons, detailed knowledge of how all eons are not eons, detailed knowledge of seeing all eons past, present, and future in a single moment, instantaneously knowing all such minute details of all eons as they truly are by means of enlightened knowledge, attaining to the mind mastering the completely fulfilled practices of enlightening beings, the mind entering the practice of universal good, the mind free from all inane speculation and erroneous conceptualization, the mind tirelessly making great vows, the mind perceiving the network of innumerable worlds filled with Buddhas, the mind able to learn and remember the roots of goodness of the Buddhas and the practices of the enlightening beings, the mind which, having heard, never forgets the great practices for comforting all sentient beings. The mind which can manifest the appearance of Buddha in the world in all ages. The mind which unceasingly practices unshakability and imperturbability in all worlds forever and ever. The mind which in all worlds fills the bodies of enlightening beings with the behavior of the enlightened. With unattached, unbound, liberated minds to cultivate the practice of universal good, accomplish non-regression, and attain extremely detailed knowledge of principles and phenomena. Detailed knowledge of the principles and phenomena of mysticism. Detailed knowledge of far-reaching principles and extensive phenomena. Detailed knowledge of various principles and phenomena. Detailed knowledge of principles and phenomena of adornment. Detailed knowledge of the immeasurability of all principles and phenomena. Detailed knowledge of all principles entering one principle. All phenomena entering one phenomena. All principles entering one phenomenon. All phenomena entering one principle. Detailed knowledge of one principle entering all principles. One phenomenon entering all phenomena. One principle entering all phenomena. One phenomenon entering all principles. Detailed knowledge of all principles and phenomena entering what is not principle or phenomenon. Detailed knowledge of defining all principles and phenomena where there are none, without contradiction. Detailed knowledge penetrating the techniques of all Buddha teachings. Knowing as they truly are all such things as defined by all speech and all worlds, with extremely detailed and subtle knowledge equal to all of them. That knowledge unobstructed, attaining the mind which enters the boundless realm of reality, abiding steadfastly with a profound mind in each sphere of reality, perfecting unobstructed practice, filling all faculties with universal knowledge, entering the knowledge of Buddhahood, properly mindful of expedient means, accomplishing the great qualities of Buddhas, filling the entire cosmos, realizing all the bodies of the enlightened, manifesting all the physical actions of enlightening beings, expounding the teaching in the terms of expression of all worlds, attaining the mental activity of knowledge spiritually empowered by all Buddhas, producing omniscient knowledge skillfully distinguishing all things. With unattached, unbound, liberated mind to cultivate the practice of universal good and produce detailed knowledge of all kinds. That is, detailed knowledge of all lands and fields, detailed knowledge of all sentient beings, detailed knowledge of the fruits of all practices, detailed knowledge of the minds of all sentient beings, detailed knowledge of the proper timing of all expositions of the teaching, detailed knowledge of all realms of reality, detailed knowledge of all past, present, and future worlds throughout space, detailed knowledge of all manners of verbal expression, detailed knowledge of all worldly activities, detailed knowledge of all transmundane activities, and detailed knowledge of the paths of all Buddhas, the paths of all enlightening beings, and the paths of all sentient beings. Cultivating enlightening practices, living by the path of universal good, knowing all expressions and meanings truly, bearing knowledge that all are like reflections, like dreams, like illusions, like echoes, like phantoms, like space, bearing knowledge of nullity, bearing knowledge of all realms of reality, bearing independent knowledge, bearing knowledge of all principles of Buddhahood. Enlightening beings dedicate their unattached, unbound, liberated minds without forming arbitrary notions of worlds or worldly things, of enlightenment or enlightening beings, of the practices of enlightening beings or the paths of emancipation, of Buddhas or Buddha teachings, of taming or not taming sentient beings, of roots of goodness or dedication, of self or others, of gifts or recipients, of practices of enlightening beings or true enlightenment, of truth or knowledge. Great enlightening beings dedicate those roots of goodness in this way: that minds be unattached, unbound, liberated; that bodies be unattached, unbound, liberated; that speech be unattached, unbound, liberated; that actions be unattached, unbound, liberated, that rewards be unattached, unbound, liberated, that worlds be free from attachment and bondage and be liberated, that Buddha lands be free from attachment and bondage and be liberated, that sentient beings be free from attachments and bondage and be liberated, that laws be free from attachment and bondage and be liberated, that knowledge be free from attachment and bondage and be liberated. When great enlightening beings practice dedication in this way, they do so as the Buddhas of past, present, and future during their enlightening. They study the dedication of Buddhas of the past, make the dedication of Buddhas of the future, and live by the dedication of Buddhas of the present. They remain on the path of dedication of the Buddhas of the past, do not give up the path of dedication of the Buddhas of the future, and follow the path of dedication of the Buddhas of the present. They diligently practice the teachings of the Buddhas of the past, accomplish the teachings of the Buddhas of the future, and know the teachings of the Buddhas of the present. They fulfill the equanimity of the Buddhas of the past, achieve the equanimity of the Buddhas of the future, and abide in the equanimity of the Buddhas of the present. They traverse the ranges of the Buddhas of the past, abide in the ranges of the Buddhas of the future, and equal the ranges of the Buddhas of the present. They attain the roots of goodness of the Buddhas of the past, present, and future, are endowed with the essential nature of all Buddhas of past, present, and future, abide in the sphere of action of all Buddhas of past, present, and future, and accord with the realm of all Buddhas of past, present, and future. This is Great Enlightening Being's ninth dedication, dedication with unattached, unbound, liberated mind. When Great Enlightening Beings live by this dedication, they cannot be broken down even by adamantine mountains. Their physical characteristics are supreme among all sentient beings. They can destroy all the evil doing of demons. They appear in all worlds in the 10 directions, cultivating the practices of enlightening beings. Because they want to enlighten all sentient beings, they expound the Buddha teachings to them in appropriate ways. Attaining great knowledge and wisdom, they have no confusion in their minds about the teachings of the Buddhas. Wherever they live, whether they go or stay, they always encounter incorruptible company. They are able to absorb and retain the teachings expounded by the Buddhas of all times by means of pure mindfulness. They cultivate the practice of enlightening beings forever and ever, never ceasing, developing and fulfilling the practical vows of universal good, attaining universal knowledge, dispersing it as Buddha work, perfecting the autonomous spiritual powers of enlightening beings. Then the enlightening being Diamond Banner, spiritually empowered by Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said in verse, "The peerless honored ones of the 10 directions have never had a thought of pride. Whatever virtuous works they perform, they are still respectful and reverent. All the virtues they cultivate are not for themselves or others. Always with a mind of supreme resolve, they dedicate them to the benefit of all the living. They have never developed pride or conceit, yet they are not self-demeaning. The actions of the enlightened ones they inquire into and earnestly practice. The various roots of goodness they cultivate are all for the benefit of conscious creatures. They abide in profound will and broad understanding, dedicated to the most honorable, virtuous human state. The various skills and marvels there are in the world beyond measure, crude and fine, broad and deep, they practice and master all. All the various bodies in the world they enter by equality of bodies. Cultivating this, they attain understanding and accomplish non-regression in the door of wisdom. The lands in the worlds, innumerable kinds, minute, immense, with different orientations, enlightening beings can, via the door of knowledge, see all in a single pour. Sentient beings' mental activities, without measure, they can cause to equally enter one mind. Through the door of knowledge they understand all, and do not regress in their practice. Sentient beings' faculties and inclinations, superior, middling, and inferior, are each unalike. All are profoundly hard to know, but enlightening beings can comprehend them in accord with their fundamental nature. Sentient beings' various actions, superior, middling, and inferior, are each different. Enlightening beings, deeply entering enlightened power, clearly see all through the door of knowledge. Inconceivably innumerable eons they can cause to equally enter one instant. Thus, having seen throughout the 10 directions, they cultivate all pure actions. Past, future, and present. They know their characteristics, each different, yet without deviating from the principle of equality. This is the great mind's practice of clear comprehension. The actions of the sentient beings of the world are not the same. Sometimes apparent, sometimes hidden, there are innumerable kinds. Enlightening beings know all their different forms, and know too their forms are formless. The autonomous spiritual power manifested by all Buddhas in the worlds in the 10 directions, vast, extensive, inconceivable, enlightening beings are able to distinctly know. The naturally enlightened human lions in the Tushita heavens of all worlds, their virtues great, pure, beyond compare, all their features the enlightening can see. Sometimes they manifest spiritual descent into the mother's womb, or innumerable autonomous miraculous displays, attaining Buddhahood, teaching, showing extinction throughout the world unceasingly. When the human lions are first born, all those of superior knowledge serve them. The gods, such as Indra and Brahma, all respectfully attend to them. In the infinite boundless realms throughout the 10 directions, without beginning or end, far or near, they manifest the powers of the enlightened. After the honored human leaders manifest birth, they walk 7 steps in each direction. Wishing to enlighten the living by the wondrous truth, the Buddhas therefore observe all. They see sentient beings sunk in the sea of cravings, veiled by blindness and folly. The free humans show a smile, and reflect that they should save beings from suffering. The great lion's roar emits a wondrous sound. I am most honored in the world. I should light the lamp of clear, pure knowledge, and destroy the darkness of ignorance and folly in birth and death. When the human lion kings appear in the world, they radiate infinite great beams of light, causing an end to the courses of misery and extinguishing the sufferings of the world. Sometimes they manifest life in a royal palace. Sometimes they manifest leaving home and cultivating enlightenment. Because they want to benefit sentient beings, they demonstrate such powers of freedom. When the Buddhas first sit on the enlightenment site, the whole earth trembles. All worlds in the 10 directions are bathed in light, and beings in all states are relieved of pain. Shaking the palaces of all demons, awakening the minds of all sentient beings, those who received the teaching and practiced it in the past, they cause to know the true meaning. All the lands in the 10 directions completely enter a pore. The lands in all pores are boundless. Therein they manifest spiritual powers. Enlightening beings understand the innumerable methods expounded by all the Buddhas. Even those the Buddhas have not explained, they understand and diligently practice. All the demon armies create conflicts, filling all worlds of the universe. The infinite varied ills they create, unhindered knowledge can all destroy. The enlightened may be in Buddha fields, or may appear to be in celestial palaces. Sometimes they manifest their bodies in Brahma's palace. Enlightening beings see all without obstruction. Buddha manifests infinite various bodies, turning the wheel of the pure teaching. No bounds to this can ever be found, even throughout all times. Jeweled thrones, high and wide, without compare, fill the infinite worlds of the 10 directions, adorned with various wondrous forms. Buddhas sit on them inconceivable, surrounded by crowds of enlightening beings, filling the whole of the cosmos, revealing infinite practices for enlightenment, the paths followed by all the Buddhas. The appropriate acts of the Buddhas are infinite, boundless as the cosmos. The wise are able, by one technique, to know them all entirely. The Buddha's spiritual powers manifest all kinds of bodies. They may show infinite lives in all states of being, or may appear surrounded by concubines, or else they may, in countless worlds, manifest leaving home and attaining Buddhahood, and on the final demise, distribution of relics and setting up of shrines. By these boundless, varied actions, the guides explain the abode of Buddhahood. The great virtues of the world honored, enlightening beings vow to cultivate and achieve. When they dedicate those roots of goodness, they abide in such expedient means, thus cultivating enlightening practice, their minds never wearied or lazy. The great spiritual powers of the Buddhas, as well as their boundless supreme virtues, and also wise acts in the mundane world, all they know exhaustively. Thus all lordly humans, in whatever realms they may be, understand all at once, yet don't give up enlightenment practice. The subtle, refined practices of the Buddhas and the various laws of all fields they are able to know as they encounter them, ultimately dedicating them to transcendence. Finite or infinite, all ages enlightening beings know are the same as one instant. Herein they enter enlightening practice, always cultivating it diligently, never regressing. All the lands in the 10 directions, some polluted, some pure, and all the Buddhas there enlightening beings can distinguish and know. In every moment they clearly see inconceivably many eons. Thus, throughout all times, they cultivate enlightening practice. Into all minds they penetrate, and penetrate all things equally too. The same for all Buddha fields throughout space, comprehending all their excellent practices. They produce all kinds of knowledge of sentient beings and phenomena, as well as spiritual powers of enlightening beings, all of this inexhaustible. Knowledge of all minute details, each distinct, enlightening beings thoroughly absorb. Similar and different aspects they all know well, thus cultivating far-reaching practice. Innumerable are the sentient beings in each of the innumerable Buddha lands in the 10 directions. Their conditions and types are variously different. By the power of their practice, enlightening beings can know them all. All the guides there are in past, present, and future worlds. If one has knowledge and dedication like them, one's practice is equal to those Buddhas. If people can practice this dedication, this is learning the path of the Buddhas. They'll attain the virtues of all Buddhas, and the knowledge and wisdom of Buddhas. Invulnerable to all worldlings, accomplishing all that is to be learned, they'll always be able to recollect all Buddhas and see all the lamps of the world. Enlightening beings' excellent practices are immeasurable, and so are their virtuous qualities. Once living by the unexcelled practice of the enlightened, they know all the spiritual powers of the Buddhas.